afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Delighted to be introducing you now to our next session of the day 4 of the LSX World Congress. Title of today's presentation and sort of interactive fireside chat format is Readiness Assessments for Coming to the US. Are you ready for prime time? Please do ask your questions to our speakers through the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your screen next to the video, and continue the conversation throughout the rest of the event. But for now, delighted to hand you over to Matt Cardinal and Cornelia Kroeger from Halloran Consulting Group. So, Matthew.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for attending our session, which is appropriately titled Readiness Assessments for Coming to the US. Are you ready for prime time? I'm here with my wonderful and talented colleague, Cornelia Kroeger. Cornelia, you are obviously a brilliant scientist and also an innovator, and you are trying to bring your medical technology innovation from the continental European Union to the continental United States. Do you think you're ready for prime time? And maybe you can shed some light on what the difference is between EU and the US.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, indeed, I have questions about what it takes to come to the US. So I was hoping to get some answers from you. So let me describe a little bit of where we are with our company, and then what does it take to get to the US? So we're a small biotech company. We are a spin out of university. We are 5 co-founders that came together and have really developed an amazing product. Many European KOLs have chipped in and helped us bring this product to life. And we've just started the first trials to see about the safety and efficacy with patients. And so far it's been a fantastic run. So we've had great funding. So the seed funding was easy to get, and I would say easy, but it's been really good. And what can I say? We had the right KOLs on board. The funding came from partially government grants, so very undilutive, part from private investors. But we as the co-founders still really hold the majority of the shares. So, but now it's time, we need new money. So to really reach that next development stage for our product, we really think that coming to the US is going to be the right next step, just because it's going to be the major market for our product. So we're looking now to make that contact with US investors and also US KOLs as we are ready to take that next step. So Matt, tell me, are we ready? How do we do it? Who should we contact?
These are really good questions, Cornelia, and there are obviously many things we could respond with to answer those. But I guess first what I want to know from your company's perspective is what you have done up to this point, and more importantly, how you have defined your business case, your value proposition. Specifically, have you put in any thought or done any evaluations for the competitive landscape for your company versus what is currently in development here in the US or globally, and what might be coming? I think it's very difficult sometimes for everyone to get their hands on everything that's going on. So have you developed a network of people to provide feedback outside of the KOLs who have provided some of your scientific advice to get your program to where it is today? Have you reached out to any other investors potentially outside of your initial network who might be able to shed some light on the competitive landscape that we have here in the United States? And more importantly, not just a competitive landscape from a development perspective, but a competitive landscape from a fundraising perspective. So maybe you can tell me a little bit more about your business case.
So Matt, so far we've really been working in the European Union. So it is a diverse place. So we have KOLs in France and in Switzerland and in Germany, and have been collaborating closely. But I have to admit, so far we have not incorporated KOLs in the US. So yes, that is a very important first step for us to reach out across the Atlantic and to see how our product fits into the workflow with the US. So no, yeah, we need to do a market analysis of the US market and also globally. So far, that is really a gap that I see that we should tackle immediately.
Yeah.
What would be the first step here? Are there companies that can help me do this, for example, or accelerators, or how can I make that first contact?
Yeah, there definitely are companies and partners with investors that can help you execute on some of those objectives. And you raise a very important point. We get feedback from regional and country level experts all the time for a lot of startup companies. And then we go to other areas, other geographies where standard of care might be a little bit different. And so that product might not integrate into the market as seamlessly as it does where it was founded. So I think that there are definitely opportunities to reach out to some people to provide you a little bit more insight on how you would fit your development program for the US market. But I also think that we need to talk about not just advice, but infrastructure and people and what your company looks like now and what you're looking to become, where you're looking to grow to. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about your plans for actually maybe building a presence here in the United States or elsewhere in the EU. Do you have expertise about US regulatory requirements? Are there any commercial experts that you need to bring on? Maybe have you thought about that at all?
So we have predominantly worked with local people. As I said, we are a spin out of university, and all the founders have been a group of friends. And of course, we have our scientific advisors and also business advisors that helped us build that business case to move forward. But so far, we have not reached out to the US to bring in additional people, but we are all very open to exploring different positions within the company, because we know that we're now at a stage in our company where we need more experienced people to take us forward as we are reaching that next step where we need that additional expertise to, for example, someone who knows about the business development landscape also in the US. Can we bring someone on? And what would be the incentives that it would take to bring in this talent into a European company? Do we need to establish a US presence, or can we keep our headquarters in the European Union?
Yeah, so maybe you could tell me, as the leader of your company, as the founder of the technology and the driver of the future, what are the biggest challenges you see maybe with your people, with your team? Do you think that there's going to be any division between, the group that sort of created what you have today versus the larger group that you're trying to create tomorrow that will be, transcontinental and transcultural and working in different business markets and, again, different time zones and different geographies? What do you see as some of the challenges maybe for creating that vision, for creating that future?
So what we've heard is that a lot of US companies offer shares to the employees. So far, all our shares are really with the founding team and, of course, the investors. So I think that might be one of the challenges that you're describing. The talent has been very, I would say, cost effective that we were able to recruit. And I think that is one of the greatest strengths also of developing a product in the European Union, that you get fantastic talent. I've heard that salaries are a lot more steep in the US compared to, for example, Germany. So I see that could be a challenge as well, seeing that the cost and also the that there are different incentives that US employees would get compared to our European employees. So that would definitely be something that we would need to evaluate in the leadership team.
Yeah. Yeah, these are very real challenges, and I think they're problems that, having business advisors who could help you support or help support your integration into the U.S. market could help you overcome some of the challenges, structural challenges that you might face there. Maybe going outside of just the infrastructure and the people, how about just your overall network within the U.S.? I mean, do you have access to service companies, to third parties, to vendors? Are you comfortable with being able to identify people who might be able to support development growth? So I'm wondering, have you explored that? Do you need support in doing that? That can be a challenge and could also substantially hinder your development planning if you don't have the right contacts.
That is a great point, Matt, because this is exactly what we've been struggling with, because there are so many service providers out there, there are so many accelerators out there that as a company homegrown in Europe, we don't necessarily have those contact points and don't know who are the right people and who to trust as we reach out. And especially also when it comes to an infrastructural network and to also finding contact to peers, but also when it comes to investors, because I said so far it's been really good getting this ground or start funding in Europe, but now we need major investments and we need major money coming into the company. And so we've been struggling to find these investors within Europe that are really able to invest these sums that we need for the next development. So this is especially something that we would be looking also towards the US to find these investors that are ready to bring our product to market. And
Right.
Trying to find these contacts is really something that we're looking to gain. How can we make, build our network as you're describing?
Right. That's a very good point. And, I think that this is the time when I would ask you, what does it mean to be ready for you? I think you raised an important issue, which is you've had enough of the smaller investments to get your science to this you feel comfortable. So maybe you feel like you're ready from a scientific and from a technological standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as an investor, if I put myself in those shoes, I want to know whether your business case is ready. Mm-hmm. Because now what you're looking for are the very large sums of money that are going to rapidly accelerate your program for global development. So Cornelia, maybe you can tell me what it means to be ready for you, and then I can tell you what I think it means to be ready for me.
So Matt, I thought our business case is very solid. So far, we've been growing organically and trying to reach the next step now. So we've always had these, just taking it step by step. And this is why we think now we are ready to take the next step to really bring the product to market. So what are you looking to as a next step? What do you think we need to be ready? Because in our eyes, we're ready. We want to do it.
Yeah.
So what are there differences in mentality or in visions that we need to understand?
Yeah, I do think that there is a specific difference in mentality, and this goes to maybe a bit more of the competitive nature and the competitive landscape of the United States marketplace, which is there needs to be more focus on the business case itself. There needs to be more focus on the return on investment itself, and less of a focus on the wonderful scientific and technological accomplishments that have been accomplished by your team up to date. I mean, those are very important. We do want to acknowledge those, and that's also what we're investing in, but we're investing for the future and we're investing for a return. And I think that that's maybe where some companies, doesn't matter where they're from, they tend to lack focus on that point. And so I want to make sure you're ready for that. You're ready for that presentation. You're ready for that message, for the network of potential investors that you're going to reach out to. What I do not want to see is you spend all of this time and effort to take that next step because you believe you're ready after everything you've accomplished up to this point, and then to see you get rejected because you simply don't have the right message and you don't have the right mentality. So what we can do is we can work together to get you ready for that pitch, for that presentation, to make sure that you have proverbially the I's dotted and the T's crossed, as we say over here. So hopefully you're ready for that step and you're ready for that conversation. What do you think?
I think we are ready, Matt, as you said, but we need help in building out, as it sounds, a long-term vision. And
Right.
How many years ahead do we need to plan? What are investors looking for? What kind of data do we need to provide? That is another question. Are they already looking for, we of course have been developing through the European guidelines, but do investors already look for an FDA plan? So that is kind of what we are hoping to gather in information. What do we need for US investors? What are the questions they're asking?
Yeah, you raised a very important point there too. So we talked about the business case and being ready for prime time to present for investment. But I think another aspect to readiness is actually having sort of the technical assessment of readiness. We see a lot of companies that think that they are ready that truly are not. And that's where also when you're talking to potential investors who are interested in your science and your technology, they may bring in partners to help you out in that particular exercise, to look at your data, to look at your program, to look at your trials, to look at your development plans, to look at your ongoing conversations with regulators globally to determine if you really are ready for, like you said, that next big step. So that's another avenue that I think you should potentially pursue. And there are also groups both in the US and the EU who can do that type of work. People tend to have some sort of regional specialty, which is fine, but I think most of us who understand the development space can work back and forth across the pond. So I would strongly suggest bringing in that type of support as well, especially because, smaller startups tend to be more scientifically focused. You have a lot of very technically oriented and very knowledgeable scientists who have moved your product forward. But at some point you have to get into maybe more the traditional professional knowledge realms. So people who are doing this for all sorts of companies all the time. So hopefully that sounds appealing to you, maybe, and we can find a way to connect you with a larger network of supporters.
That sounds very promising. So kind of what I hear, Matt, is that I should build a network, not only of KOLs, but also business advisors, consultants, and investors that will help me shape the vision, a global vision, to really bring it to the US, to have a 5-year plan, for example, and create that value creation curve that those investors are looking for. And that this will really be what we need to be ready. Is that correct?
Yeah, I completely agree with that assessment. And I think the main reason is, we live in a world where resources are tight. People, human resources are tight. And this is an industry where sort of knowledge and experience is not in large supply. And you are trying to accelerate. You are trying to go fast. Everyone is trying to accelerate. Everyone needs to go fast. That is specifically what investors are going to want to see as well. They do not want to see a 10-year business plan. They want to see a 5-year or shorter business plan, especially with regards to milestones and inflection points. And so how do we get to that without having the people, without having the knowledge, without having the infrastructure as well. It's a challenge. I think a lot of people in your position who are really smart, really talented, are passionate, have spent years and years trying to get their ideas to this point, think that they can not necessarily go it alone, but think that they can take it all on. And the reality is that probably is not true. Everyone needs help. There are always deficiencies in our own knowledge. And you can find that in people who you can hire and bring onto your team. You can find that through investors who are invested in your organization. You can find that through key opinion leaders, extending your network of scientific advisors. You can find that in the professional services industry. You can find it in all of those areas. And many times individuals in those groups will help connect you to the others when they see that you need some support. And so if I could have any advice for you at this point in time, it would be, don't be shy, reach out, talk, learn more. And there are people out there who can help you and move you along the right path, and also in an expedited time frame. So you're not losing time along that accelerated path. So hopefully that provides you some insight on, I think, what you need to do to really be ready. You're ready to be ready. But the question is, are you actually ready?
Well, what I really hear is, Matt, that we need to think bigger as people in the US do, and that we need to see that we need to acquire those resources to also bring in that network that you're talking about, because this sounds, quite frank, to be very expensive. And we've been very bootstrapping and have been very efficient with our money, but it seems that the US thinks differently.
Yeah, it's not that there's a different thought process. It's just that it's a bit more aggressive and maybe a bit more competitive. But I also think it's also global. It starts here as being maybe sort of US centric and then expands globally. And so I think what we're trying to do in your case is get ready for you to be globally competitive. And that means maybe
that's the key.
Is to expand outside of Switzerland or Germany or France or Italy or the UK, and then into the United States, and then into China, and then into Australia and Canada, and on and on and on. And there are people in all of these areas of the world who have expertise in, for example, the regulatory knowledge that one needs to have to make sure that you can get technologies approved in those areas, but also the market, the commercial opportunity, where it might not necessarily be valuable to go. So I think that that's really our point, is to put you in the best position possible to be a global player, a dominant force. And maybe that's the first step, is coming over to the crazy, chaotic, competitive world of the United States, and getting you aligned with some of the people that we know over here. So do you have any other questions for what it takes?
I hear you, Matt. We will need to do our competitive analysis of the global markets and build our network. So we will be in touch to build our vision with you, and to really make that next step out of Europe and into the world. So Thank you so much for that.
No problem. And look, we're here to try and make your dreams a reality wherever you go. And so I think you're ready, and eventually you'll make it to prime time.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much to Matt and Cornelia. You can continue to ask questions throughout the event on the Q&A section on the right-hand side of your video, of where the video is playing. We also would recommend that you do please reach out to Halloran through the booth in the networking section, and you can reach out, chat with them there, and indeed find out what it'll take for your business to get ready for prime time. Please do join us again at 1 o'clock for our next session, which is focusing on optimizing your success through sort of commercial and clinical synchronization and strategy. But for now, thanks again to Cornelia and to Matt, and see you again at 1 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you for having us, Josh.